Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Russian tea cakes. That's right, these delicious cookies are neither Russian nor cakes. But if it makes you feel any better, they are great with tea. And besides that, because of their snowy appearance, they're perfect for the holidays, as well as being incredibly easy to make. So fair warning, if you are a fan of complicated procedures, you are not going to be a fan of this incredibly simple method. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started by getting our ingredients together. So in a bowl, I have a couple sticks of room temperature unsalted butter, to which we're going to add a packed third of a cup of powdered sugar. And right here you can see I definitely packed it, since I had a little trouble getting it out of the measuring cup. There we go. So we'll do some powdered sugar, also known as confectioner sugar, followed by a cup of finely chopped walnuts. And most recipes don't say to toast the nuts first, but I do like to warm those up in a dry pan over medium heat. I think it makes those walnuts taste a little nuttier. But this is optional and up to you. You are the czar of how nutty your nuts are. But I do like to give mine a little toasting first, after which we'll let those cool before chopping them up. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 cup of finely chopped, lightly toasted walnuts. And then we'll also need a pinch of salt, as well as a spoon of vanilla extract. And it doesn't matter which one, Mexican, Tahitian, Madagascarian. As long as it's real, I'm cool with it. And then last but not least, we will add our all-purpose flour and get to mixing. And the technique we're going to use, if you can even call it a technique, is what I call the old dump and clump, which means we just dump everything into a bowl and mix it with our hand until it's just combined and starts to clump up. And I realize this goes against every acceptable, proper cookie making technique, but I can't even pretend to care because this works perfectly well. So all I want you to do is use 1 and or 2 hands until it's just combined and it starts to clump together, which means we could roll it into balls. And one great tip I'd like to pass along here, if you're not quite sure this dough is mixed enough, it's not. Okay, you'll know. So if you see flour or chunks of butter, just keep going until it looks something like this, which as I just mentioned is to the point where it kind of clumps together and we're able to roll some balls. And at this point we could stop and refrigerate this and roll them later, or we could just do it right now, which is what I'm going to do. And to assist me with that, as usual, I'm going to grab my trusty sorbet scoop, which theoretically is going to ensure each of these cookies is exactly the same size. And once we scoop our dough, what we want to do before we place it on our baking sheet is roll it into a nice smooth ball. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 baking sheet full, which as you can see has been lined with a silicone baking mat. And by the way, these uniformly sized balls is just not for appearance. Much more importantly, it's so they all cook at the same rate. And speaking of cooking, this isn't a dough that really spreads out a lot, but it does a little bit. So make sure these are evenly spaced a couple inches apart. Then once our pan is prepped, we are ready to bake. So at this point, we can transfer those into the center of a 350-degree oven for between 15 and 25 minutes, or until they're lightly golden. And I know that's a big range of time, but I'll explain why on the blog post. But long story short, I feel that people generally undercook these. Okay, so as I said, I want to cook mine until they're lightly golden, and if we peek underneath, the bottom should look like this. Okay, a nice light golden brown. And like I said, I will review all the cooking time variables on the blog post. But assuming we've cooked ours long enough, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let these sit for exactly 5 minutes, at which point we're going to toss these in powdered sugar. And we're actually going to do this twice. So this first time, since the cookies are still warm, that powdered sugar is going to kind of melt into the surface and form what's almost kind of a thin frosting. So they're not going to look super great at this point, but that's fine. Because what we're going to do after we give them this initial coating is let them cool completely and then toss them again. And it's this second application of powdered sugar which really gives them their signature look. And by the way, some people just like to dust the tops so that you can see a little bit of that cookie coming through. But I do prefer to coat them as much as possible. I mean, for me, when it comes to Russian tea cakes, if they're not white, they ain't right. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off that second coating. And then once our tea cakes have been sugared a second time, they are finally ready to serve. With, yes, 1 more final dusting of sugar to garnish. And no, this video is not sponsored by the powdered sugar industry. It should be, but it's not. But anyway, I'm going to finish up with a little bit of hot tea. Well, actually, room temperature prop tea, but still. And our Russian tea cakes are ready to enjoy. And while the taste is amazing, buttery, nutty, and just sweet enough, what really makes these so great is the texture. I mean, they feel firm, but when you bite into them, they basically just disintegrate under tooth into something that I like to describe as very pleasantly sandy, which might sound a little weird, but you try these and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? But anyway, that's it. Russian tea cakes. Nobody really knows how they got that name. Although since I do watch a lot of late night movies, I will take a guess and say it had something to do with a Russian mobster. But anyway, mysterious names aside, these are very delicious, super easy to make, and because of their appearance, are perfect for all these upcoming holiday parties. So I really do hope you give these a try soon. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.